Hey YouTube. Now, I'm not gonna lie, Scandal is getting good. Like, I think that Shonda must have heard the fans' concerns and she's like, I gotta do something. And Shonda, she has done it. Now, all of this time, well, first, let me begin by saying this is Scandal Season 5, Episode 18. Now, most people that know me would know that I'm an Oblitz fan. Like, Olivia and Fitz. I'm riding for them. Even after their big messy breakup, I still had hope for them. Now, with this episode, I have never particularly liked Jake. I've always wanted Jake to die on some episode or just disappear or something. But Shonda is good because she actually made me like Jake this episode and I felt for him. And for a second, I really wanted them to be together, which is strange. Okay, so I can say this episode, Olivia, not Kerry Washington, Olivia was acting her butt off. So we're thinking that Olivia is just stressed and depressed and traumatized, laying in this bed moping for weeks at her father's house. They convince her to try to do her hair or get out the house. So she says, okay, I'll do my hair. I'm going for a run. I'll be back. In going for this run, she runs and she goes to meet Huck and Quinn. Nobody's following her. Now, you can see at this point, Olivia, Huck, and Quinn, they have some type of scheme going on, basically trying to figure out why is Jake getting married and why has the wedding date been pushed up. We find out Rowan has pushed up this wedding date. Now, I personally believe that Rowan pushed up this date because once Olivia basically moved into his house, he knew that it was only a matter of time to when Olivia would get to Jake and Jake would side with Olivia and not want to get married. Okay, so Olivia is still playing this role as if she's so sad. She's trying to figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, Jake is not catching on anything. She keeps asking him, "Do you love the girl?" He's like, "Oh, of course, I'm getting married to her. This is what I want to do, blah, 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 blah." Okay, so at one point, they're supposed to have an engagement party at the White House. Well, Olivia is supposed to go to the engagement party. Well, she's up in her room pretending like she's crying and she's distraught. And Jake actually wants to stay back with her and see if she's okay and basically help her get herself together emotionally. And he tells his fiance, "Oh, go ahead and go to the party. I'll meet you there." Jake, what? What? You cannot do that? Okay, whatever. So then he says, "No, I'm going to go ahead and go." And Rowan says, "This is what you wanted. You want to get married to her. You need to go." Okay. So Olivia is listening close by the door. She knows there's something sketchy going on. Okay. So Rowan, he leaves at some point during the night. And Olivia is at the house and she's downstairs pretending to be drunk and just pouring out her feelings to Jake, basically saying, "I can't believe you're getting married. You don't love her. Do you really want to be with her?" And blah, 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 blah. Basically, to finally get Jake to crack and say, "Okay, no, I don't love her." And then she goes back into character and she says, "What is you and my father's plan?" And then he's like, "There you go, putting on that act." I'm like, "Jake, she been putting on an act for weeks." Okay, whatever. So then all of a sudden, Jake tells her the truth. This is their scheme. Edison is running for president, of course, and her father is preparing Jake to get married to this woman so that it will look good by putting Jake on the ticket to be vice president alongside Edison as president, and he'll have all the power in the world because he will be in the White House. So Olivia says, "That's your plan. You don't even want to marry her." And then he says, "Yeah, but basically I have no choice." Now keep in mind, all episode we're seeing flashbacks of Jake. And when Rowan first found Jake, Jake was in jail and he was about to get out of jail, but Rowan was going to get him charged with something else to basically have him sit in there for another 10 years. And he basically said, either you're going to sit in jail for 10 years and you're going to be, just like a sucker to these people, or you can get out of jail and I can train you to be a soldier for me and you'll just be a sucker for me. Okay, so he doesn't quite want to do it, but I mean, Rowan just beats the boy to death. He doesn't have any choice to do it. And anytime Jake is like mouthy, he just beats him. At some point, I think he broke his arm. Charlie is in the same training class for B613 as Jake is. At one point, Rowan even has Charlie beating the mess, like blood and everything, out of Jake, and then has him put Jake in the hole for 3 months. All along, we're seeing Jake's like background and his upbringing and his dysfunctional household and his mother and his father and his sister. And so when Jake finally gets out of the hole, he basically says, he's not saying anything. And Rowan approaches him and he's like, so what did you think about when you were in the hole? Did you think about a dark place? Did you think about sunny skies? What did you think about? I think that you probably thought about your dad. You probably thought about how your dad used to beat your mom and punch her in her ribs, and you didn't do anything about it. And it was only because she spoke up, because she would see your dad leave her bed and go into your little sister's bed at night and like live out his fantasies. And you, as a 17-year-old boy, you sat there and you did nothing. So you disgust me just as much as him, and you would just allow that to go on. And he was basically like plowing into him, plowing into him, plowing into him. And then he sees Jake balling up his fist because Jake is getting mad, and he said, oh no, don't take it out on me. You want to hit me because you're mad at yourself because you really should have hit him. And I'm like, oh, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. And you would never know that Jake lived this type of life. You wouldn't even know that he had a sister. Well, come to think of it, his sister, after being abused and molested and just traumatized all these years, she decided to go outside to the tree and she killed herself. She hung herself. And I'm sure Jake feels some guilt behind that as well. And it was just like a lot to deal with. So then he basically uses this against him. He throws this guilt trip on him, and then he gives him a hug and he says, I'm here for you. I'm your father. Now, meanwhile, let's remember, Jake's real name is not Jake Ballard. It's Pete something. But the moment he came into Rowan's possession, he became Jake Ballard. And so, with that being said, Rowan has messed with Jake's mind for years, and he has the ultimate control over him. So when in present time, when Jake was talking to Liv and he said, hey, your father is making me do it, I have to do it. No matter how much I hate your father, or whenever I try to get away from him, I always come crawling back to him on his front door, and I don't understand why, but literally, it's like Rowan has mentally abused Jake. Like, Rowan is the ultimate villain of all, like, that I've ever seen just on TV. Now, I'm not saying movies, but TV, I mean, this man is bad. And I'm saying he was literally like one of my favorite actors, one of my favorite characters on the show. And I never wanted Rowan to die or disappear or anything. But at this point, I'm slightly considering it. Okay, so anyways, so we see that Jake and Olivia, of course, not a shocker, they end up hooking up that night. And they're trying to figure out a way, how do we get you to not get married? If you don't want to get married, don't get married. We can just be together. And Jake is saying, please, just choose me. You never chose me. Okay, so then they meet up at Pope and Associates. They're talking to Huck and Quinn, and they decide this is what they want to do. He is going to just leave her in front of the altar. He's not going to marry her. It'll be public embarrassment, but it's okay because he really loves Liv and he wants to be with her. He would do that much for her. Okay, so then even Huck asked Liv, are you sure this is what you want to do? She said, yes, this is what I want to do. I just want to be happy. And at that moment, I actually believed her. And I never believed her when it came to Jake. Okay, so then the day of the wedding, she's sitting there, she's waiting. All of a sudden, Rowan comes up. As soon as he walked up, I said, oh, God, he must know. And I'm trying to figure out how he would know. Would he know from Huck? Is her office bugged? I don't know. Okay, so whatever the case, he tells her basically, you're not going to ruin this for Jake. You're going to tell him that you changed your mind, you don't want to be with him, and he's going to go up there and he is going to get married. You are not going to mess him up. He is going to be the vice president. There's hope for him. He's powerful. You're not going to ruin this for my son. And if he finds out that I told you about it or I sabotaged you guys' whole little plan, I will slit his neck. He will die because I'd rather him be dead than to be mediocre. I already lost my daughter. Basically, you're nobody. You had so much potential and it's been ruined. I'm not going to lose my son. And I'm like, man, that is like bam, 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 like two punches to the face. Like, first, you basically tell her, I will kill Jake. If you love him, you're not going to tell him and you're going to let him go through with this, or I'm going to kill him. And at the same time, you're a lost cause. You're nobody to me. You will never be good enough. You're not even like a daughter to me anymore because I feel like I have lost you. So I'm like, man, that's like a blow. So that hurt me. So at this point, she's sad and she's like, just let him live his life. Like don't let him just throw away his life. You don't have to control him. And he said, basically, do what I said or he dies. And if he even has a thought that I influenced you, he dies. If you walk away with him and you guys think you're walking away into the sunset, he dies. I love him too much to see him live a mediocre life. And I'm like, this dude is nuts. So then Olivia, she has to break the news to Jake. And this was a really sad moment. And for 2 seconds, I really thought about crying because I'm thinking, like, you could really tell that Olivia did not want to let Jake down. You could tell that it was hurting her to say the words that she was saying. So much that even in the beginning when she was talking to him and she was telling him she can't do this, it wasn't believable. That is why Jake automatically said, did he get to you? What did he say? What has changed? What is different? And this was unusual behavior for Liv. Usually Liv doesn't just confront things like this, honestly. She just runs away. She never just talks it out. And when she's talking it out, it's in anger, it's in pain, and she's like crying. And you know that she's doing it for some selfish reason. And she blamed that reason on Fitz. And she basically tried to insult Jake and humiliate him and embarrass him and make him feel like he was nothing. And you're always going to come back to me. You're pathetic. You're a poor man's version of Fitz, and I will never be with you. I love him, and if I couldn't make it work with him, what in the world would make you think that I would make it work with you? I would tear right through you. You are a sad puppy dog. She's saying things to try to hurt him. At the same time, he knows her so much, I don't think he believed her. And especially when she walked away from him, and Fitz said, Liv, what's wrong? And she walked right past Fitz. If Fitz was the one that you really loved, you wouldn't have walked right past him. So at that point, Jake really knew, man, her father put her up to this. And I'm never going to get away from this man. He's tried before. Even the day that he graduated from B613, Rowan gave him a choice. You can stay with me and be my soldier and live a great life, or you can go back and you can live a mediocre life. I didn't train you for that, but you can do that. And what does Jake do? He shows up to his family's home. He goes straight inside, and all those feelings he had bottled up about his father that Rowan was basically feeding to him and just putting all this like hate and anger into his heart all of those months. He goes in there, shoots his dad, walks out, rocks right back to Rowan, because at that point he needs him. He needs Rowan to cover it up. He needs Rowan to heal those scars and those wounds that he has. But really, Rowan, he just creates new ones. Jake can never be free. He could never live a good life, a normal life. He could never just love anybody. So with that being said, Jake goes up to the altar when they're asking him to say, I do. He pauses for a second. He looks at Rowan. He looks around. He doesn't want to do it, but at the end of the day, he knows there will be consequences, and he's never going to escape this man's hold that he has on his life. So he says, I do. And at that point, I felt so sorry for him. He is a permanent member of B613, and the only way out of this is death. And it was just so sad. And I felt sorry for Olivia because she was really hurt. And I don't know what kind of person this will turn her into, but I'm definitely looking forward to next week's episode. And with that being said, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check me out at mrsblogaholic.com. Bye.